All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of our continuing education series, which we do in Seven Community in partnership with Photoing. So we're very happy to see quite a few of you already joining. And yes, I'm very happy to welcome Joachim Ladefoged. I will say the English version of
Thank
his
you.
last name, and then he'll tell us the Danish version. But Joachim will talk about his career today. About he just told me he's been photographing for 34 years already. So he's been part of Danish newspaper. He's been a freelancer. He worked for the former Seven agency, and now he's a contributing photographer to the Seven Foundation. And he really worked on a lot of different projects. So he's really a great person to speak to when it comes to creating a personal style and voice that kind of resonates with different clients, with editors. He will also tell us how he works with journalists and especially how what's his approach to kind of photography, to assignments, and to his work in general. So Joachim, thank you really for responding to kind of our invitation and letting us a bit in your world and in like all that you do.
Thank you very much. Hello, guys. I'm really excited to see how many different countries you're all coming from. It's like crazy from South Africa to Dallas to Bogota, Colombia. It's amazing. So, I will tell you a little bit about my work. I will show you some previous work from when I was student photographer as well. And also, show a little bit about what I'm doing today and how I work with the journalist at the newspaper. There's a big difference coming from the newspaper world to become a freelance photographer and then back to the freelance to the staff photographer again. So, and it's okay if you want to ask questions, on the way, but you can also wait until the end if you want to. But I can tell you a little bit about how I started as a photographer. I was 16 years old when I was at a sports school and I got arthritis, which is a disease that makes your joints bad, and I got cured. But while I was sitting in the wheelchair, I got a camera from my father and I started taking pictures. So in a way, photography saved my life because I could be present. When my friends were shooting, playing soccer, I could be there photographing it, or I could go to a music festival and take pictures of all my friends getting drunk and have fun while I was protecting myself from, from being too drunk or getting enough sleep and so on. So when I was well enough, when I was 21 years old, I became a student photographer at a newspaper in Denmark. Was a local newspaper, and we had 8 assignments a day. So I was shooting all kinds of local stuff, and it was a terrible place to be, of course, because there were so many bad assignments. But I learned how I used to say that I learned how to how to crawl before I could walk. It means that had so many assignments every day, shooting so many portraits, so many different things, that I learned a little bit of how you know, to do all kinds of assignments. So in the summertime, I was shooting 2 football games every Saturday and every Sunday, and in the wintertime, I did all the sports. And then, so I learned so much to shoot so many different things. And that was a good learning experience. And I think that's important for you guys to be out there and shoot a lot, because if you don't shoot a lot, you will not learn a lot and you will make those mistakes that you need to do before you can be really good at photography. And today, of course, you are so lucky that you have all the online work. You can see all the photographers in the world. Their work is available online, and you can learn from that. But in that days, we only had exhibitions or newspapers or magazines to look at, and photography books, which I bought a lot. But let me dive to really fast into it. I will look a little bit behind the screen because my monitor is behind the computer where I'm where you can see my face. So that's why I'm not looking at you guys. While I was at this newspaper, and I used to say that photography, and I believe that in life in general, if you want to be good at something, or if you want to learn some craft or do anything, it's a lot about energy. And so if you don't have the energy, you won't be good at anything. You have to be out there and shoot and shoot and shoot to become good. And so I was a newspaper photographer on daily basis, but then in my holidays, I went to a Berlin wagon camp while I was a student. And I spent weeks there over a period of 2 years in the summertime. And so I went to Berlin, and I'll see if I can show you the pictures large, which means there we go. I hope, I don't know, let me know, because now it's not showing. Now it's not showing where I want it to be shown. I hope so. There we go. Do you see the image large on your? Let me
No,
try and drag.
no,
Yeah, that's better, right?
we don't. I still don't see it, and also some people were saying that they have some troubles with the frozen image. So I'm just trying to see. Sorry to interrupt
Is
you.
Yeah,
If
no
there's,
problem. Is it on my side or is it on?
I don't know. Some are saying that you look frozen. On my side, it's okay. So for me, it works
Mm,
everything perfectly. So I'm not sure. We only see, yeah, now it appears to be working, but in terms of the app, they only see the selected photos, but not the enlarged
okay,
photos.
I have the enlarged photo on my monitor right now. So,
So
but
let's,
you don't see, only see the
no,
whole contact sheet. One is writing, yeah.
yes, yes, exactly.
So what do we do? What do we do? Let me try and
We,
drag this. No, it doesn't help to drag it anywhere. That's strange because on my monitor is a full large image.
but is it now on the monitor or on the external monitor?
On the monitor, I had full large image, and now I turned it into the contact sheet again.
Uh,
That's weird.
let's,
Hold on. So nobody sees an enlarged photo, right?
no, I don't think so. Because
All right.
everyone is seeing, I think, what I'm seeing as well. So
So if I go to full screen here,
let's see now.
no, that doesn't work. Now I try it again, and I make one large image. You don't see that. That is a large image on the monitor right now.
No, we don't see it. So Doug is
Mm.
saying that you should change the screen and display option within the settings. So
All right.
yeah,
So I
let's
go
see.
and say plus here, slides, and that's a good question. Add file, no.
Mm.
I'll try and stop the screen sharing
Mm-hmm.
and see
Yes.
if that helps. So now nobody sees anything, right? And then I
No, no, we
start
don't see
sharing
it.
screen again, and I share
Okay.
screen again, and I try to share the whole screen. What
Yes,
happened
the
there?
whole screen. Well, now it doesn't seem like it's sharing because below this kind of app on StreamYard, I should have a. Okay,
Now I have
now we see the now we saw I saw the picture now. Okay, it's the picture is here now. Yes,
it's the picture is on the big one now. Great.
yes, it's on
Sorry
the big one.
about that. This is new
No,
for
no
me as
problem.
well.
I'm sorry because
So
we're all learning.
so basically what I did here in Berlin at the wagon camp, I showed up as a young man. I was only 21, and I never experienced anything like this before. So I was, of course, nervous when I walked into the camp. But what happened is that I approached these people here homeless people, people who wanted to live like this. And they were, of course, as many are today, skeptical about the press or photographers. But I told them that I was a young photographer and I wanted to follow them a little bit longer than just show up and make a snap picture or be unfriendly. So they accepted me to come and be yeah, just showed up. Hold on, now it's going to get. Now I have a problem getting the next picture for you guys. So I try to push this one. Now I can't do anything on my side.
It did work before, I think, when you scroll to the
Yeah.
next one. So I'm not sure what happened here.
So I will now let me see if this works.
Maybe
Back
if
to
you
this
minimize.
and back to this and here. Yes, now
Yes.
it's working. All right. So basically, what I did, I was there for a week, and I was shooting a lot of pictures. And then I went home and developed a lot of pictures for them, and then I went back to show them what I was doing, and they appreciated that. Of course, they could see that I was serious about it, and they called me the ghost of the camp because I was in and out every day. The first few days, one of the guys who was in charge, you know, being a photographer and get into an environment, it's also a psychological game or something like that. You have to be very good at sensing who is in charge here, who is the boss here, or who will be the one you should speak to get allowance to be there. And the guy who was the strongest guy, physically the strongest guy, he one day I was sitting next to him on a couch, and he was playing with a knife, and he was trying to, just for fun, to stab me in the leg with the knife, and I was holding his hand desperately, of course, and I asked him, "Am I annoying you?" And so he said, "Yes, you're going a little bit on our nerves." And then I said, "Okay, why don't I just leave today and I come back another day?" And he said, "Fine, that's good." And so I did. So that's the guy in the background sitting in the camp in the wagon here up here. That's the guy who was trying to stab me. Of course, if he wanted to stab me, he could have done it, but he was just threatening me or just being annoyed. So I went away for a few days, and then I came back, and then I became this friend of the wagon camp. And as I told you, I had been ill, so I was protecting myself. I was making sure that I got enough sleep, I got enough food, and all that. So I couldn't stay in the camp and sleep there because I needed my sleep and I needed my food clean and everything. I was afraid of getting back to the illness. So I just went there when the light was great, and then so I was there early morning and was shooting, and I told myself I wanted to do this as a kind of a National Geographic assignment. So shooting color, and then at that time it was slides. So it was a transparent picture, film with transparency called slide film, and so that's how I approached this as an assignment that, like I was giving it from National Geographic. So I was hanging out, shooting, documenting what's going on. But when it comes to my style as a photographer, of course, I have my heroes, and I wanted to let you know that you should look at your heroes as well, or the people that inspires you the most. And at that time, I was trying to shoot, like with a lot of depth in the picture, unsharp foregrounds, sharpen in the background, and a lot of things going on in the picture. That has changed because of we are all looking at our pictures today on a small screen on our phones. So I will get back to that as well, that today my photography style or the way I shoot pictures are totally different from back then. And I of course I'm sorry about it because I love to to shoot pictures the way I used to do. But that's how the world evolves or is going, and it's not the survival of the fittest, as you normally would say. It's survival of the most adaptive, the one who can follow the time, what we're doing now. So they were funny and crazy. These people drunk, using drugs. Some were there because they were homeless. Some were there because of their political statement, whatever. So I was hanging out and came early mornings when the sun came up, shooting pictures in their wagons, people sleeping, taking portraits. So I was always trying to mix my work with portraits of people in the environment and also do reportage style, and just follow along. And at that time, when I was shooting, I I could hang out, in a spot for so long time. Um, if I see you are on it, Nika. But so what I was trying to do is just be a fly on the wall. I'm not, and what I mean by being a fly on the wall is that I was observing and taking pictures and not talking too much with people. But today I learned a little bit more about as the more I get used to certain things and I see and I understand what's going on, I could talk to people a lot and then dive into a situation and concentrate on shooting it. And then when the situation is over, I'm going out again and talk to people again and be present, as a person. So sometimes just being observing all the time also makes it you a little bit, how you say, unfriendly to people, that there's a person there, but you don't know who they are and what they think and so on. So for me, I'm involved a lot with people when I'm taking pictures nowadays, but also then, so talking to people and have a good time, and then dive in and concentrate and take pictures and then go out again and do the talking again. So this guy at the left, he is homeless and he is going to the social, how do you say, the commune pays him money every month to survive from. And these two priests, or um, how do you say, religious people, were living in the camp to help the homeless people there, and they are with him at the commune. So that's a funny picture, that they're sitting there in that funny clothes. So at the beginning, they don't allow me to do anything. They won't let me shoot when they were taking drugs or smoking weed. But the more I was there, the more they allowed me to see. And here's a good example of how I loved to photograph at that time. That taking pictures when so much going on. It's the girl at the left is drinking, smoking. The guy in the red, he's walking towards me and smoking. And then they are shaving their hairs. And that guy who is shaving the other one was the strong guy, the boss in the camp. So and some of the things I love about being a photographer is that you are allowed to be curious. You're allowed to go into an environment you would never walk into if you were not a photographer. So so all the experiences that I had, I feel so lucky that I can go and see stuff that not so many other people can see. And that's really lovely about being a photographer. So here, the group of homeless, or the wagon camp people, were going to a party in East Berlin, and they walk into a subway station and into a wagon, and this guy is bleeding from his chin, and there is blood running, and he was crazy, and you could see how afraid people were being because these like 15 guys came into the wagon. And I understood why, because if I was there alone in the car and these guys came in, I would be like, whoa. But I was one of them, and I could follow along, and it just gives you so much to see other, cultures, subcultures, and stuff like that. Again, a picture where a lot of things going on in the picture. But if you want to show this on a small phone today, you wouldn't be able to read all the information there is in this picture. So today I would not take this kind of picture. There is a donkey. They're riding a donkey. He's carrying a dog, and they're painting a wall, a door in the background, and yeah. So so I'm just there. And also another experience I had is that I was saying to myself, I don't want to shoot with flash, so I will be there at night, but I don't use strobes or flash, I think it's called, yeah. So, and I regret that because at that time you only if your film was ISO 25, you only had that. So you can't, like today we can dial on our cameras, and we can go up to ISO 16,000 if we want to and shoot in the darkness. But back then it was impossible. I had only the film I had, and I lost some pictures because I couldn't change my film, and maybe I took 10 pictures on a roll, and then I had to change to another one, but I didn't want to do it because it was so expensive. So and this film is called Kodachrome, very famous one, and they were very expensive and very so I and the ISO, I think the highest was 200. And shooting with that in the night, you can see that I have to open up the shutter a lot, and things get blurred. And at this music place, there you can see I had no light, so I had this blurry picture, and I lost a fantastic picture here, which I regret today. Of course, the best pictures are the ones you never get to have. So I always think, oh my God, I lost a great picture there. Portrait of a little kid reading books at night at candlelight, sleeping early morning. She was yeah, I felt very sorry for this girl. She was on drugs and intoxicated, and you can see her fingers, how dirty they are and bloody and so on. I felt so sorry for her. Um, that was terrible. And yeah, this is a disgusting picture, but it's funny also that and this guy called Max, the old man here. And then I also try to show the sensitivity of these people, that they look so strong, they look so hardcore, aggressive with tattoos and dirty and all that, but they also have their dogs, and that's how they got, attention or the dogs were their loved ones, if you can say that. So this tough-looking guy had his little puppy, and he was so happy about it. So for me, I'm always trying to show humanity in the, yeah, how do you say, a tough situation like this or a hardcore place like this, that these people are also people, and I love to show that. And again, something that I've learned and I'm looking a lot for is the light. If I go into a situation today and I want to take a portrait of people, I'm looking for the light as well. It's very important for me to make great pictures using the light. So every time I go into a situation, no matter which one, I always try to look for another, or a different take on the situation. I get bored very easily with. We have seen, a situation 1,000 times, and you just look at it and you move on. So that's why I'm always trying to bring stuff into a different setting, or trying to see the different light, or so I always teach myself to continue looking for the unusual situation or something new to a situation. this one, he became the one I'd spoke the most to, this guy, and he's just reading his newspaper in all the garbage. And I was sitting on up there on this hammock uh, thing. I don't know what it's called, where it's hanging. I was sitting there for 2 hours, not speaking to him, just hanging out there, taking pictures and follow along what's going on. So this was basically my, story from Berlin Wagon Camp, and it was shot in 1992, 93. And this personal work, because this is personal work, it gave me an award in Denmark as the Danish Press Photography of the Year, and that work gave me the opportunity to become a staff photographer at the national newspaper Politiken in Denmark. So what I wanted to show you is that maybe you're learning how to take pictures and you are going out on assignments or you do all that kind, but it's your personal work that will bring you to the next level. So think about that you have to do your daily work and your assignments or whatever you are doing, but it's the personal work that will bring you to the next step. And it takes a long time. It's not something we can do just overnight. I shot this over 2 summers, and and then you get to learn and you experience and you understand. Oh, this is how it works, and so I should focus a little bit more on yeah, my personal work, and that's how it. That's how it was. And I was again trying to make overview pictures so we can see how it is and where it is. And again, um, what we can do with photography is we can also record for history. And this Wang camp, of course, doesn't exist anymore. It existed in no man's land in Berlin after they took down the wall. So this is basically West Germany on the left of the screen and East Germany on the right of the screen. And then this wagon camp appeared, and now it's gone. It's a park. So it's history. And there you can see how young I look. And I was not very old, and my mother was very scared of how I was surviving there, but it was fun. I will show you another, and this is going to get a little bit hardcore. I hope people who are afraid of nudity and sex will look away, because I went to visit a local prostitute in my hometown, and I will show it because again, while I was a student photographer and doing all these assignments, I went to these prostitutes maybe once or twice a week over a period of 6 months. And I only made these 9 images because not that many, of their clients wanted to let me in and take pictures. So, and again, I was only 21, and I knocked on the door to this prostitutes, and this woman to the left, she opened up the door and said, "Yes, you can come in now." And I was like, whoa, I'm not a client. I'm a photographer. I would like to." I was stumbling. I was like trying to speak very fast so she would understand that I wasn't there to show, to be a client, but more to take pictures. And then I came there over this period of time, and they were playing around, fooling around with me, and also asking me sometimes if I wanted to have a free ride. And I said, no, 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 thanks. I'm not here for, I'm here to document. I'm not here to, it's not my thing. And I also believe that if I wanted to cross that line, if I had crossed that line, then I wouldn't be able to do the work anymore, because then I was involved. I know there are some Magnum photographers who are doing this, going all the way, but I'm not that kind of an artist. I was more like documenting what's going on. And so once or twice I was able to be there when there was a client, but 99% of the time I was sitting out in the back, reading a newspaper, hearing them, having a client, and couldn't take pictures. So I'll go a little bit fast so you don't get too much in your face here, but just show you this picture that, if you put a hand over her breasts and you don't see that, this is like two ladies having lunch at work. And that was amazing to be able to shoot this. I made an appointment with these girls that they could have a say on, if there were pictures that were too much. And so I will show them the pictures before I was publishing them, and then they could say, no, we don't want this. But I was thinking to myself that so they wouldn't show the most hardcore pictures or the most ugly pictures, how do you say, nasty ones. But there was a better picture than this in this situation. And the lady to the left, she didn't want me to publish it because she had double chins. So it wasn't because of the hardcore, it was because she didn't feel that she was good looking. And I was like, what's going on? I mean, you're looking sweet, you're laughing, there's nothing wrong, but she was just like, no, I have double chins, so I don't want the picture. But the hardcore stuff, no problem, you can show that. That was funny. So playing around, a lot of waiting time. I was trying to go home with the women and show them how they lived at home and their daily life, but I never succeeded on showing them how they were at. I wasn't experienced enough, I think. So when I came home with them, it was only one of the girls and me, and I was looking at her and saying, what are you gonna do now? And I couldn't take a great picture, so I ended up only editing the story down to these. And we published this in the local paper, in a magazine, and so many, how do you say, subscriptions were canceled because the people were like, what the hell is going on here? But others were like, whoa, this is crazy. So yeah, hardcore stuff. Also, again, showing the hardcore. And on the next page, I had this comforting, he was in a lot of pain. So she comforted her. She comforted him because he had a lot of pain. And so again, trying to show you the humanity in the hardcore situation. And then a lot of waiting time. So this is the work I was doing while I was a student. And it gave me the experience. I had the local assignments. I was shooting a lot, but I also did my personal work on the side. So it led me to become a staff photographer at Denmark's best newspaper when it comes to photography, which is called Politiken. And I did so I had all the experience from the local paper, but I never traveled. But now Politiken gave me the opportunity to travel. So I started to cover, wars and news stories and so on. And I went to Albania to shoot the collapse, a pyramid scheme collapse in Albania, and it started riots against the president. So they were kicking, the people of Albania were kicking the military and the government out of villages, and it started, to become chaos. And I was one of the first photographers to get there because I was at that time in Serbia to cover demonstrations against Milosevic from the students in Serbia. And so Serbia and Kosovo, Albania, sorry, are close to each other. So they sent me down to Albania, and I came in there as one of the first photographers. And I fell in love immediately with the country, because they were riding horse carriage on horses, horsebacks. It was like going 50 years back in time. This is 1997, and I fell immediately in love, and I was covering for the newspaper. Um, and because I was there as one of the first ones, I was also, I was like, wow, this is it. This is my moment of in photography. I have no kids. I had a wife, but I have no kids. I have the time. I could go back and shoot this. So um, over the years, I've learned that some, news events or wars or stories have made a photographer's career, and this one was my career breaking through story. Uh, so um, so this story was the one that brought me a little bit higher in the world of photography. And so now you can see that I'm using the work, the experience I had from Berlin Wagon Camp and the prostitutes, to go in and shoot black and white, and a lot of these depth of field, sharpening in the background, so you can see an unsharp foreground. This is the style that I love to do, and I'm going a little bit faster through it. But again, what I did is that I went there shooting for the paper, came back with a journalist, and shot another assignment that year in 1997 for a week. So I had two trips on just a week each. And then I decided to go back on my own because the paper wanted me to send pictures home every day. And at that time, not it wasn't digital photography again, it was film photography. So I had to develop in the bathroom at the hotel and scan the film, dry it, develop, dry it with a hair dryer, cut it, scan it, send it home. Each picture took 10 minutes to send home. And so I lost a lot of great pictures. And I felt that I was losing so many good pictures that I couldn't do it anymore. So I had to go back on my own and use my own holiday and my own money to go back. Um, and when it comes to working together with a journalist, um, my experience was that many journalists, and also that's how it is today, um, journalists, if they're not journalists who writes about a certain situation that happens in front of them. So let's say a journalist went with me to the garbage dump and described the situation, described talk to this guy, let's say the guy in the foreground and so on. If they that if they're not that kind of journalist, they are more a kind of journalist who writes an overall experience about what's going on in Albania, that the pyramid schemes collapsed, and they talk to politicians, and they talk to sometimes also to regular people or normal people in the street. But um, so what happens is that I am as a photographer, we as photographers, we have to be there at at the exact time that we need to be there, like when the light is right, the situation is right, and we take pictures of things going on. And if we are not there, we are going to lose it or do not get the right pictures. So sometimes the journalist asked me, you have to come with me and talk to a government official. And I'm like, but do you really want to see a government official in the paper instead of showing what happens when the pyramid schemes collapsed? And so I had a lot of argument with the journalist. And at that time, I was really like strong on my beliefs, and I was fighting for the photography. And I called the paper and told them, tomorrow I'm not going to send any pictures home. I want to go south in Albania from the capital of Tirana, be there and sleep down there and take pictures of what's going on, because that was where the action was. And the journalist said, I'm not going with you. I will be here in Tirana and ask to talk to people, and I don't want to waste my time going with you. And so I was driving south, and I came to a village, to a city where I found out that a guy had been killed by a stray bullet, and there would be a funeral the day after. And I went to the funeral. I got permission to take pictures, and I went back home the day after and developed the film and scanned it and sent the pictures back home from the funeral. I will show the funeral picture in a few minutes. And then the journalist who was in the capital of Tirana, he was talking to people there, and then he went with the other journalist to a little bit south as well. But he came to a checkpoint, and at that checkpoint, they found out that a guy has been killed by a stray bullet. So he went back home to Tirana, wrote the article about there's a guy who has been killed in the south of Albania from a stray bullet, and blah blah blah. And I sent the pictures of that guy who died from the stray bullet, but we never connected it in the paper because I was doing my thing, he was doing his thing. So that was a really, really bad example of how you shouldn't work with a journalist. It was embarrassing for both of us that I think for most part it was his problem because he should have followed me, but that's how it is. But today I still have a problem, with journalists that do the overall view of a certain situation, and I'm trying to dive in and make the great pictures for that story. And we are still struggling to find the right mix sometimes. I'm doing a story about Europe right now where we are diving into different countries. And the journalist I'm traveling with, we are going on our fifth trip on to Paris next week, and she is a very intellectual and very clever and very smart and a great journalist. She writes really good articles, but we have a hard time finding the pictures that fits her overall view on her stories. So we're discussing it, we're talking about it, we're trying, and we are getting better, but it's still difficult. I have to say this is a mental hospital where the nurses escaped or ran away from during the riots in Albania, and this picture became photography of the year, press photo of the year in Denmark. And at that time, it was very unusual to see an unsharp foreground like this and a sharpen on the background. The woman in the foreground closing her eyes. Um, but also a great example how I like to work, that I have all these elements in the foreground and putting a person in the background that I sharpen on. So this was my style of photography that I love to do. This is a demonstrations for the president Sali Berisha, and this is a demonstrations against him. People losing their money, showing. But also another experience here is that being a fly on the wall is it's difficult. You can't walk around here with a camera and pretend that people don't know who you are, what you're doing. So, for instance, we were looking at the crowd walking by, and then as soon as we took up the camera and started taking pictures, people were freaking out, like showing the money, starting to shout, and so on. So, my experience is if you want to make a a more true picture of a situation, then you have to be present for a long time, so they forget about you, and they yeah, they're like, okay, there's a photographer, we don't care. But if you just want to take one or two pictures, then it doesn't show reality sometimes. Here's a portrait of police soldiers who started patrol in a village in a city again. Um, and again, a good example of how I love to work, with the composition of the Kalashnikov and the walls and the guys and the foreground on sharp and so on. Um, a boy lost his eyesight from playing with ammunition. That's what happens in war. It's terrible. And also, I found out that I didn't have any, how do you say, insurance. I went there on my own. So if I walked on a piece of ammunition, I lost my leg and so on, I will be a little bit fucked because I will be in the same hospital as he is, and they were very poor and have bad conditions, and so you do stupid things when you are young, and I wouldn't let my kids do the same thing today. A guy, this is the situation where I've been second most afraid ever in my life, because I went into trying to get into a village where they have evacuated all the journalists who was in there was evacuated with the help of the Italian military helicopters. They flew them out because the president will attack this city that have kicked out the military and the government from this village city. And so I went in there with two other photographers. We were lucky to get through the checkpoints. And while we were there, this guy came in and was shot in the arm. And they said now the government troops attacks. And we didn't have any car or any, we didn't have any protection with us because our taxi driver wouldn't dare to drive into the village. So he parked 20 kilometers away. We went hijacking, hitchhiking on the with a truck, and we were like, well, we made it in there. We were the only ones to cover this situation in this city, and so now the government attacked, and we had to get out. And then I found out that we were not the only journalist in the village or in the city, so the scoop was no scoop. But I got this picture, which showed the situation very well. I was happy about this picture. But going out of this city was so terrible because all the rebellions who had looted military camps and taking the guns, they were now thinking they were going to battle with the government. And it was kids like 15, 16 years old with Kalashnikovs. And they were so afraid and high on energy when we came to the checkpoints going out of the city. And we were like, fuck, if they start shooting or they don't even know how to use a Kalashnikov. Yeah, I was so afraid. But the government had attacked and then went back again and nothing happened. But I thought I was going to die. So I was like really, really pale white in my face when I got back to the taxi driver, and I got drunk that night at the hotel, and I forced myself to go out again the next day because I wouldn't have gone out. So in a war, in a situation like this, you are always most afraid when you're not in control with the situation. You are afraid of things you can't control, and so we didn't know what was going on. That's why we were afraid. But so that freaks you the most out, like, of course, if you're under attack, you are afraid as well, but sometimes it's you are afraid of a situation you don't know, you can't control, and that makes you scared. I stopped doing wars. I stopped doing riots or news like this when I had my first child, because I didn't want to die in a war, let my child lose his father. So that's why I turned into another kind of photography, but I will tell you about it later on. So this is the dead guy. I went to. Whoa, whoa, whoa! I don't know what happened here. Sorry about that. I don't know why it became so small. Now it went back to. Hold on. I hope you can see it. I have no idea how it became this small on the screen. Let me try and fix it. Because I guess you see it small as well.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Yeah, it's going crazy here. Hold on. No, when I scroll, I double click on it. Oh my God, let me see. View here. That's weird.
Yeah, I don't see well to try to help. I'm sorry about that.
Customize image. That's where I can't go plus here. I can't.
Can you
Wow.
just quit photo mechanic and start again?
Yeah, I
Perhaps.
could try that. It says Zoom. Hold on. Maybe it's that. That's the reason.
Now it works. Yeah, that's
Yes,
fine.
we're back. So this guy died from the stray bullet that I was talking about before, and it's crazy how much one situation can make it or break it if in your career. And this picture became a breakthrough for me in my career. Um, it I won a WordPress photo award series with the pictures that I did in 1997, and I also won a third prize in single images with this one. And it has so much history to, so many other pictures. The Spanish village picture, with Eugene Smith, and it all it also has reference to a painter we had in Denmark who painted a dead fisherman lying in the light, like almost like this. So it has so much reference to history, um, and that what makes it special. What happens here, and now we're talking about ethics, and is that when I went to one room where all the men were sitting and drinking coffee and tea, and I asked and told them that I was a photographer from Denmark and I wanted to take pictures of the funeral. And one of the men was the brother of the dead man. And he said to the other guys, I think we should let them. The other brother said, no, maybe not. But then the first brother said, no, you can go and do it. So this guy who just allowed me to take this picture, almost saved not saved my career, but it was a big step for me. And what I did is that I took this picture, and half a year later, I went back to the village and I gave the pictures to my to the family, and I wrote my name on the back of the pictures. And 18 years later, this dead guy's daughter contacted me on Facebook and asked me about more pictures of her dead father, and so we had a conversation. I showed her more pictures, and then I went to visit her some year later. And it was very emotional for me to be, able to, at that time, it wasn't easy to communicate like it is today. So it was fantastic for me to experience, the connection from her, and we did a story about it in the paper that we that I have visited the daughter of the dead man. So this family has meant so much to me. So I have been revisiting this family 3 times during my career over the last 20 years, and it's been an amazing experience. So this is his funeral, a checkpoint with the rebellions. And again, this is the way I take pictures. Um, for you to understand what's going on in this picture, this is a Serbian soldier. So now what happened is that all the weapons that they were looting, in Albania from the military barracks to fight the government, then they went to their brothers in Kosovo, and that's why the riot started in Kosovo against the Serbs' occupation there. I know there is different opinions about, from the Serbs and from the Kosovo Albanian about it. I don't want to go into that political discussion, but just saying that the weapons went to the Kosovo Albanians, and I followed the weapon and started a project in Kosovo as well, and that ended up in my book Albanians. So and this is a Serb funeral, and what you see in this picture is, if you can imagine that I am staring into a window of a car, and I'm shooting through the glass of the car onto the other side of the car on the left side of the picture. So the soldiers and the police in the background to the left I see them through the glasses. And then I turned the camera just a little bit this way, and then I had reflection in the first window of the soldiers standing behind me. So it's that's how it makes this double layer image. And so, yeah, I followed the war there, the riots, the rebellions. This is Albanian, Kosovo Albanian soldier who was killed by Serbs, and they've been abductized, I think it's called in English. I'm sorry for my English here. And they were giving back to the families out of the body bags into the coffins. And the Serbs killed the Albanian cows. The rebellions were in the villages. I revisited them. The Serbian president Milosevic on a wall, Serbian funeral, um, because of course the Kosovo Albanians were killing Serbs as well, and they had families as well. So I went to shoot Serbian being sad as well. I wanted actually to do a story where I covered both sides, but the Serbs, because they were bombed by NATO and Denmark was a part of NATO, the Serbs didn't allow me to go into their lives because I was a NATO, I was with the NATO. So even though I said I'm an independent photographer, they didn't allow me. So I didn't have that much of the Serbians, but so the book became called Albanians, but it also shows Serbians. And here, Albanian funeral, people attending a funeral. And here's again a good example of daily life. They're throwing a watermelon, something going on, and people in the foreground and all that. That's the way of photography I really loved to do. Serbian women. And sometimes I'm asked if I do you know when you have a great picture? Do you know when you're standing there and you think, oh, here I nailed it? And it's very seldom that I believe that I had a great picture. Of course, with the funeral, I understood in the situation that I had a great picture. But here, I was certain that I would get an amazing picture, but I didn't succeed on it because I was walking up to on a hill, and under an olive tree, a boy was lying under 10 mattresses in the shadow with fever, lying with the arms out like Jesus, the little child, Jesus child. And I was almost shaking so much because I just told myself, do not fuck this up because this is too great. This is unbelievable. What it's like a fairy tale reference picture, it's like it was amazing. But then all the other kids were going around me and staring at me while I was taking the picture. And I just wanted to have this boy alone, but I also couldn't, shout at the other children to go out of my picture because I have to be polite and ethics, and so I didn't. I don't build. For me, it doesn't feel right because they're staring at me. I wasn't the observant, I wasn't the fly on the wall. People knew I was there, so for me, it's not the perfect picture. But I was really, yeah, I thought I could have had a fantastic picture. So NATO, the Serbians started to throw out the Albanians from Kosovo. So they're walking over the border to Albania. So I went there to cover the refugee crisis. And for me here, that started my freelance career, if you can say that, because I was there, in Albania in 1997. I won World Press Photo Awards with the work I did in my holiday and for the paper. And then I won the awards. And then I said, okay, listen, I'm only 27 years old or 28. If I ever would have a chance to go to the next level and work for the big magazines, this is it. So I quit my job as when I was 28 years old, and I became a freelance photographer, and I joined an agency in London, and then I published the Albanian book, and then I joined Magnum Photos, and so this is how I started, taking the small steps to the next level. And so when I was shooting this refugee crisis, I received a call from my friend in Seven, one of my colleagues, and he said, "You have to call New York because New York Times Magazine wants to buy your pictures from Albania." And it's a long story. I don't want to get into it now because it's too long. But it was an amazing story about how I got my film from the mountains down to Tirana and got the film with a passenger to New York who was going on a flight to Washington, and then in Washington handing them over to a courier, and it ended out that I had 4 double pages in the New York Times Magazine, and that started my career as a magazine photographer. And started to work regularly for New York Times Magazine and Time Magazine, did assignments for the New Yorker, National Geographic, and so on. So sometimes it's just being in the right situation at the right time, making the right work to gives you the opportunity to move on to the next level. So the refugees going back, coming across the border, sleeping at night. I went with a Red Cross man who parked his car at this place where all the refugees were sleeping and at the border. And so I was shooting at nighttime, and I was shooting there in the morning when the people were trucked down to another place where they could be sent to refugee camps. And another border where a tractor with people who are getting thrown out of Kosovo. A mother is crying because the Serbs separated her from her children. She was very, very sad and upset. It was terrible. Kids are playing with refugee food, paper, and making small campfires and have fun there. Ate bread throwing from a truck, and people are fighting to get the bread and shouting at people to get bread. And in a situation like this, they camped, refugees camped in a park on the Albanian side of the border. And I went down there in the park to shoot pictures of the refugees. And I wanted to show this as an example how I work, because I was standing outside this tent for like maybe 20 minutes waiting for the profiles of the people inside the tent to be correct so you can see what's going on. Because sometimes this woman, I could see that the light is disappearing. Oh, I am there. Okay. So I'm waiting for something unusual to happen or something else to happen. She turns, so you can see that she's taking a step and bending over and taking something. You can see the profile of her face against the white, and you can see the child holding his hand on the plastic. And so it's about being able to see a picture unfolding in front of you and be able to understand if they do something else, you are able to see better what's going on. So I think I took 3 rolls of film, maybe 120 pictures just in this situation to get this picture. And that's how I work to wait for the situation to unfold. Here is the mother with 2 children sleeping under a tent like we just saw, but there is condensation from their breath, during the night, so that it looks like a painting, but it's through the plastic that I'm shooting a child with the sleeping parents. And then the French military helicopters came with 8, and it's taking off here. And so all the small stones and dust and so on are flying in the air, and that's why they're covering themselves, so they don't get this into their faces. And so when I edit the book, I ended the third chapter with this picture of a child who's looking out a plastic hole in a tent, and I'm starting the homecoming with this picture of people. Now NATO have bombed Serbia to take back, like kick the Serbs out. So basically, the Albanians returned from Albania to Kosovo again, and so I ended the third chapter in the book with the eye, and then I remembered that, and I was shooting at the same spot, going the other direction, a woman in her truck going the other direction. And then they came back home to destroyed villages. An Italian guy is trying to put out fire in a home, Italian military, and the Albanians are starting to going on revenge against the Serbians by turning their homes on fire and stealing their bikes. And I wanted to tell you also a little bit about this picture because um, sometimes I'm also asked, are you emotionally how do you say are you starting to cry sometimes when you're in a situation, or do you get emotional when you are in a situation? And I'm usually not, because I'm really so focused on taking pictures, and I'm also thinking that the camera is working as a filter. Like if I was standing looking at a funeral and just standing there and looking at it and being a part of it, I would of course start crying because I've tried that at funerals. But when I'm working, I'm trying to capture what's going on, and I'm trying to get those emotions into my camera and show people the emotions. So here I passed this bus with people looking really skinny and skinny. So we were asking our driver, me and some other photographers, to follow this bus, and the bus stopped in a village, and out went prisoners from Serbian jails. They were released from Serbian jails. It was Albanians, and didn't have enough food, so they were skinny. And after some officials were thanking them and say welcome home, 12 of these men were walking to their village where they've been captured by the Serbians. And for me, the first time ever, I was almost crying or had tears in my eyes, because when we walked into that village, you can you if you can imagine that the women and children in that village thought their men had been killed, and now they're walking alive into the village, and everybody started crying. Everybody started crying, and the men cried, the children cried, the women cried, and they were all so happy. But except one woman, her brother hadn't been released, so she was crying the most, and it was so emotional. And I was like, "Fuck, this is," and I couldn't capture it. I couldn't get it on my camera. I was like, because when people were crying, they didn't cry like open out to me. They were hugging each other and covering themselves. So I couldn't, it would be in a picture like this. So there's no emotion for me to show you. So it was so just how do you say it, annoying for me that I was like, I feel the most ever, but I can't capture it. And that's how it is sometimes. You can't show the emotion that you are feeling. And so when the combination is there, of course, it's the best. So this picture of a man in the bus is the best picture I got from that day. I had my friend, I was with another photographer who is now a famous Hollywood instructor, a photographer friend. He was still shooting pictures at that time. He was taking pictures, but he also did video. And the sound of people crying and his footage made it so much stronger. So at that time, I was like, hey, okay, video and sound can do something that I can't show. It's been so sometimes you can capture a moment in a split second with a still photo and you show it all and you get it, and then you can do video and it's nothing. But it's also the other way around, that you sometimes with sound can hear and understand how sad things can be. So another quick lesson here, as Serbian has been killed by Albanians, and I heard about it, and we went to the home and found this Serbian man killed. Um, Here, it's the most stupid thing I've ever done. We drove around in a part of Kosovo, and some rebellions stopped us, and because we had press on the side of the car, and they said, "Hey guys, do you want to document that we are going to take these killed boys by that they stepped on a landmine? We're going to cover their bodies." And we went with them. We walked into a minefield in their footsteps and took these boys out. It was terrible, and they went straight to the funeral with them. They digged the hole in the ground and put them there, but nobody checked if they really were dead. Of course, they were seriously injured, but there were no doctors. There were no one trying to do stuff. It was bad. And here they are carrying them down in the minefield. And my friend Nikolai, who is right there, you can see him just over the shoulder of this guy on the back. He was in the picture, and I shouted to him, "Hey, Nikolai, get out of the way! So you're in the picture." And he was like, "Are you crazy? I can't step to the sides here. We are in a minefield." And that's also some, craziness, that sometimes when I'm in a situation where I can show the strong things, I forget to, think. And that was stupid, but that's how it is. And here we went straight to the funeral, and so they're lying on the back of a wagon, and their little brother came to see his two dead brothers lying there, and I took this picture. And then their father came, and we told the father that we were sorry. We were from Denmark, and we were covering the war, and we're sorry about his loss. And then he said, "You don't have to be sorry. That's why Albanian women are getting so many children." And we were shocked, like, what how can he say that? But of course, he was in shock too. So that was insane. And now we're talking about this showing emotion, because this family just came back from Kosovo and found out their father has been, from the refugee camps in Albania back to Kosovo. And so they found their father had been killed the day before they arrived, and they were going to his funeral directly. So she is crying out, like I spoke about before. So here I had a picture of grief. And this is the last picture in my book. It's the pyramid scheme's collapse, and I end the book showing something that looks like a pyramid. It's actually me standing on a concrete, on top of a concrete, structure, and this guy is jumping into a lake 2 meters below me. So I took the edge of the concrete structure, and I'm standing on top and have the edge of the structure in the foreground, and that's how it looked like a pyramid. And I started the book with a pyramid as well, from Tirana. So that's how I edit books as well, trying to find the pictures that fits into the story. And this is the 5th chapter, which I have never shown, because I published the book before going back again to Kosovo, and did this about the divided city north. And again, as you understand, that I take pictures in through the windows. Here is boys standing behind the window in a school, and the outside part of the picture is a reflection in the window. So I'm throwing the boy through the window, but the outside is reflecting in the window. And as often people also talk about how important are captions. And now I've shown you all the pictures here and talked about war and death and everything. And then you see this boy lying there, and you all of course, would think that he's been shot in the neck and he's dead. but actually he's just playing. He's been into the river. It was very cold, and he's trying to get warm on the riverbed in the warm sand. And he's trying to get up. He's playing. He's lying back, and he's trying to get up. And so he has his eyes closed because the sun is sharp, and he has this expression of trying to get up. And I take the picture. So if I don't tell you this, then you would think he's been killed. That's why sometimes, picture can lie if you put it into a context that you would think that he's dead. So if I don't tell you this, it will be a little bit of a lie. So people are watching a soccer match, a football game from destroyed homes. Again, soldiers walking behind the glass window. There is a poster of a person looking out through a window. So I saw this and I went over there, took this picture. So I'm going quickly through this and that's the dead guy's daughter. I went to visit her, and this is the pyramid in Tirana. And that's the brother who allowed me to take the picture of his dead brother. And that's the place he was buried. And this is his wife. And this is the room where I took the picture of the dead Albanian man. And now it's just a place for where they are having, an extra room for all their extra belongings. So now it's nothing, but I had the book with me, and I gave them the book, and we made this picture exactly the same place where I took the other picture. And that's the brother you just saw, who was walking me down from the village in the old days. So maybe I should just show you how it looked in the. So that's the cover of the paper with the daughter and the picture about us. And that's how I looked when I was there, 27 years old. Not so young as you saw in Berlin. So how are people still following along?
Yes, they are. They are
You're
also
not sleeping.
responding.
All
No,
right.
no, no. No one is sleeping, and
Okay. So so this work made my career, if you can say that. I became a Magnum photographer member. Seven started, that year of 2002, and immediately, I was attracted to them and became a Seven photographer in 2004. And so I've been shooting with Seven and for Seven and with for the last 20 years. And so what happens is that I started shooting. Um, I did this work, and I had children, and children that changes a lot. So I started, to do other kinds of work, and I didn't want to be a war photographer anymore. Or I was in Afghanistan as well, but before I was in Afghanistan when the Taliban took Kabul the first time. So and I also experienced to be in crossfire there. So and I found out that being a frontline photographer was nothing for me. I wanted to show the consequences of war, but then I had children when I was 30, and I started doing other stuff. And so this is I want to show you daily, bodybuilders backstage at the Danish bodybuilding championships. And I went there with black and white film and flash, and I did this work. Here's a woman. She, you paint the body brown, black with the cream, or a bronze color, gold color, because it's if you're brown black, you see shadows underneath the muscles better, so you look bigger on stage. So that's why they tan themselves. And here is a woman who is getting tanned by two herpels. And so I went there taking pictures of 12 hours straight work. And sometimes, photography is not a competition, but if you are sometimes if you are shooting pictures and there is a colleague or someone from another newspaper, you would like to do it better than them. And he was a very good friend of mine. He was a photographer at another newspaper. He was there at the same time as me, and we were pushing each other to the limits. We were like staying. If he wouldn't have been there, I would have stopped after shooting for 6 hours maybe, because then I was tired. But because he was there and he didn't want to give up or didn't want to go, I didn't want to go either. So we were ending up shooting like crazy for like 12 hours, and I'm holding the flash in my one hand, so I could point it where I wanted, below, high or low, and make those big shadows on the wall. And my arms were like dead because I was holding the camera in the other hand and was going around. So uh, he pushed me to become better. And so I always say to students as well, that you have to find your friends who want to develop with you, who wants to become great with you, because you are pushing each other to become better. So if you, instead of being envy of, or like being a nasty who talks bad about each other, you should help each other. You should support each other. You should say, okay, yeah, you made some great work there, and I want to do it as much great work the next time. So that's how I've done it over the years. That I had my friends that I was shooting with. We had the community, and then I showed one of my friends who made fantastic images from Afghanistan. I was like, fuck yeah, I want to do the same. And then I went to Albania and did my best there. And then we were talking about it and helping each other. So grow together. It's better than trying to be, oh, I'm number one and I don't want to help anybody, because you will get better by being supportive and get supported by your friends. So I can recommend, use your friends, go out and kick some ass together. That's the best way to do it. So yeah, I shot these black and white pictures, and the flash is a handheld flash. So I put it below his face, and that's how I made this big shadow on the wall behind him, and creating this monster, big monsters. Uh, this guy, he is a Danish actor now. He's actually becoming a film actor, and had been he's been actor in Fast and the Furious as the bad guy, I think it is. He weighs 140 kilo on stage. I think it's 280 pounds or something like that. It's insane how big he is. And yeah, he was huge. And then I came to see this picture. And I don't know if you're familiar with the sculpture called the Thinker, but this picture has a reference to that art history. And I I asked him, "Can I take a picture of you naked?" And he said, "Yeah, but let me know if I should hold a hand in front of myself." And I said, "Yeah, okay." So I said, "Now hold your hand down there," and he held it. But then I also took this picture. But I knew that I couldn't publish this picture without his permission, because he actually have asked me to let him know when he should cover himself. So I called him and asked him to come by, and he looked at the picture for like half a minute without saying anything, and then he said, "Yeah, you can use it, because everybody who knows me have seen me like this before, and anybody else can't recognize me, so I don't care." So I published this story in Politiken, and it was on the cover of the paper and on posters in the kiosks and in the streets and so on. So, but he never complained. He thought it was amazing. It was great. And again, it's a picture that gives my story from the bodybuilders just an edge, that had reference to art history and so on. And you don't see bodybuilders usually like this. So again, I'm lucky that this picture he gave me permission to use it. Um, I actually also won in the Pictures of the Year in the US with this story here. Uh, and so I I was thinking, hey, maybe I could do more with this story. Maybe I could do a book about, it wasn't a story about who is the best. It was more a story about how it is to be obsessed with muscles and how it was to be inside a bodybuilder's mind. And so I was trying to shoot again the next year in black and white, but I never succeeded on getting this more to the story in black and white. I never got more. So I decided to shoot color portraits instead. So I waited for them backstage with a strobe, with a big flash over my head, and I took portraits of them before and after they had been on stage. And I told them not to smile, just be yourself. And sometimes you see the little sad boy inside their behind the muscles. Maybe you've been teased about your size when you were a kid, and now you're obsessed being big and so on. So I made these portraits of people, the women. I asked them if I could show them half naked, so we could see the consequences of the muscles. There is no fat; they have no fat on the bodies, um, and so I made a book called Mirror, because one guy told me that the bodybuilders only have the mirror to fight against a weightlifter has the weights, a 100-meter sprinter has the time, but the bodybuilder only have the mirror because that's how they're showing if they're good or not. And then after some time, I got bored by the portraits and I couldn't move on. But then I brought, just to have some fun, I brought a little video camera, and I was shooting backstage video, and I want to show you a video that I made. If I can have this moved away, and I am sorry, I have to move over here. So so I made these pictures. I made this film, and I want to show you. Oh, hold on. It's not on the right monitor. Here we come. And I want to show you a little bit inside this little film. I want to show you a situation where I understood maybe I had a chance to do something amazing with video if I slowed it down and I shot it in black and white. And I want to stop after the short clip here. I had a friend of mine who, oh, maybe I'm not showing you the right one first here. Hold on. This is another one. Here we go. So I brought my little Sony camera and I did this. Do you hear sounds? Do you hear the sound of the film? If
I don't know. I don't hear it. I don't hear it.
no, but maybe it's coming. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you hear this Metallica sound? Yeah. Okay. So in a few seconds, you will see the images that I was like, wow, this one here, this situation was an eye opener for me. The guy walking out to me and coming into the mirror and the other bodybuilder behind going behind the mirror at the same time. I was like, when I was shooting it, when I was standing there taking the pictures, filming the situation, I was actually saying, wow, because if I had a still photo here, I would have been amazing. So this this clip where he's walking, coming towards me, walking, and Kim, the other big bodybuilder, is coming behind the mirror. I don't know, right there. So for me, that was like, whoa, this is really amazing how great it looks on video as well. And so I applied for the Danish new screen. It's called for young talented new filmmakers. And I wasn't a filmmaker. I was just trying to get the money. And I got some money to do a short film, a short film, 9 minutes long. And I want to show you, it takes only 2 minutes, just a teaser here, so you can see what we ended up doing. I'm not the one who shoots the video now. I'm not the one who shoots the footage. I'm the director of the film. And I had a monitor on me and I could control, I could see what the photographer was filming and so on. So I went back there making film. Turn up the volume. So so this became I showed this at the bodybuilding competition, and people were freaking out over this, and were so happy about it. And yeah, it became a 9 minute long. I don't want to show you, but you can look at it if you like on my. I think it's on my Facebook, or yeah, I think it is on my Facebook. If you want to see the 9 minute long film. But it was super interesting, and it was super fun to do it. And doing a great film is a teamwork, and I'm not used to be a part of a team. I'm more like a lonely wolf, if you can say that. So it was a great experience, but it was also frustrating for me to do this kind of film. People have asked me, why didn't you continue doing film? And so this kind of film, you are not the one who cut the film, you're not editing the film, you're not doing the sound. When it's done, you have to wait a year to show it around, because it's going to all these film festivals first and so on. So I was like, wow, I can't. I'm used to having my work published a week later, or the day after, and so I was freaking out over it. So I just didn't want to continue doing film, and I regret it sometimes, because it's great. And nowadays I shoot a lot of s- short video clip for the paper. When we are going on the cover or on the online version of the paper, we have these small video clips of people doing stuff, and I like it. I think it's fun. I will jump a little bit. How long time do we have before the question starts?
I just sent you a private chat, but yeah, it's very hidden, I think, in StreamYard. I would say another 15 minutes
Yeah.
before we go to the questions. So we will probably be a bit longer than 2 hours if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we collected a few questions. I think we will need at least 15 minutes for them.
All right. Cool. Then I will show you a little bit about the work that I do on a daily assignments at the paper. What have happened in the development of photography over the years is that we are going from being the only ones who can show pictures in a newspaper or in the magazines or at in the TV, of course, but also exhibitions, to that everybody is a publisher. Everybody can show their own work. So we are in a huge competition now, and everybody is struggling, of course, to make the money. And in the old days, Time magazine sent 3 photographers to cover the same wars, and they only used one of them. And the 2 others, they just said, you can just sell it to somebody else. So that's the power of magazine and money back then, and now it's gone. So today we're struggling. Everybody is trying to survive, and Facebook and Instagram and all those huge corporations are taking the money from the papers, and we are trying to find the way, a solution to make money, because a subscription to online version of the paper is maybe $10 a month, $20 if it's expensive. And if you are if you have a subscription on the paper version of the paper, then it costs like $1,000 a year. It's huge difference. And so we are still making money on the newspaper version, printed newspaper version of the paper, and not so much of the online version. But as a newspaper photographer, I'm told not to think about the paper version anymore. We have to think about online, online, online all the time. So now it's more about shooting video, me content as well, and so on. And so the way I work as a photographer has also changed. Now I came from 35 millimeter to have all the depth and all this, you saw things going on, to shooting more in the middle. At my paper, we have the cover of the online version, and sometimes it's a small version of the situation you're shooting. Sometimes it's wider, sometimes it's square, sometimes it's big. So you can you have to make a picture that fits into all those boxes. And that means that I'm actually shooting all my situations in the middle of the camera right now. I'm not putting it up in the corner or down in the corner or I'm shooting things in the middle, because if it's not there, you can't put it on the cover of the online version. So it's totally frustrating, and also it's difficult to do other kinds of work because you see it on the little screen. So nowadays I'm shooting mostly with a 50 millimeter and on 1.2 aperture, and that's just how it is. I mean, uh, I you can complain about it, of course, but then you're not a photographer for a long time. So you just have to go with it. So I shoot a lot of portraits now, because I also used to call myself, when I was at Politik in the old days, even though I made a lot of stories and reportage and documentaries, I still called myself, I'm a portrait photographer, because 80% of all what I'm doing is that we have a case who is telling about, in this situation here, it's an author who had made a book about his mental illness and that he had a electroshock to get cured. He was in a mental hospital and he wrote a book about it. And so that's the case. So I call it a case-based journalism. So you go and meet a case and then you take pictures of them. And sometimes when you're lucky, situation where the story and the environment you're taking the pictures in fitting together. Today I was shooting a portrait of a guy, a very famous actor we have in Denmark, who talks with the journalist about his life and how it is to be famous. And the journalist contacted us, when I say us, the photo department yesterday, and he said, I need a photographer tomorrow. I'm going to talk to this guy at a museum. And I said, okay, fine. Why are you at that museum? Oh, because he's going to see the museum with his children afterwards, the interview. And I'm like, okay, so you're sending me to shoot a picture of a guy at a museum that had nothing to do with the story. That's bad journalism. So, and of course, I could tell this guy he's stupid and what are you thinking about and why are you so late and blah, blah, blah. But sometimes the journalist had the assignment an hour before. So you can't just arguing and being unpolite and say he's stupid because you don't know how things have changed or have how he had the assignment. So basically, at the paper, we have departments for the journalists who are covering culture or news or so on, and they are hiring a photographer or they're asking a photographer to do. They call the department, photo department, and ask, is there a photographer available to do this and this? And so it is 60% of the day. My assignments is like that. I get a note in my hand and saying you have to shoot this, and I do it. But sometimes it's getting great. And I have few of my journalist colleagues, I call them my colleagues because we are at the same paper, we want the best for the paper. And we have time to think about what we are going to shoot and how we would shoot it. And that's when it becomes great. This situation here, this author had, the mental illness. We talked to him. He get allowance for us to go to the mental hospital where he had the electroshock. We are allowed into the room where he got the electroshock. We are allowed into the room where he was hanging out, being a zombie, if you can say that, because he was so fucked up in his mind that he was like a zombie. So I drive 300 kilometers to Copenhagen to do this portrait of him, and then he calls me and say, I just been called by the mental hospital that there are so many patients there that are freaking out that we can't get in now. It's impossible because they are so busy and you can't come in and take pictures there. So I was like, oh my God, now I've been driving 3 hours to Copenhagen and everything is fucked up. So I just have to go with the flow again. I have to look at the situation. What can we do? So we ended up shooting in the park outside the mental hospital, and the waiting area where he was in the old days in the mental hospital is now an empty space. So we could go in there as well. So I went over there. I took this picture of him, and while I was shooting picture of him, I was standing with my hands like this, and my watch was reflecting the sun in his eye. And I thought, oh, wow. I was like, hey, stand still. And I put my watch up so the sun could reflect and hit his eye. And I took this picture. So it's try to look for the unusual in the situation and try to see if you can just be creative in the situation. So I took this picture and I laid him down on a wooden, I think it was a bench or something like that, outside in in the park outside the mental hospital. And I asked him, I walked around, and so when I shoot, I take this picture. He's lying down, and then I walk up to his skull, and I see the light hit him there, and I see how it looks on him. And I also always try to walk around the situation and let people be there. And I talked to them a lot and said, so it's in his brain. He had this mental disease. So I said, can you squeeze your head? Can you squeeze it? Because it's in there. So he squeezed, and I had this picture here. And then he's still lying there, and I'm taking another picture of him. And so for me, when it starts to become interesting is when you in the photography can try to find the emotions about what the story is about. So instead of doing sharp pictures all the time and perfect pictures, I try to do disturbing pictures. So it was this mental illness it reflects. So I made unsharp pictures of him, and I shot a flash so hard into his face that I had to bring it back up, and he became this crazy looking guy. And I talked to him about it. I told him about it when I was shooting it and said, we are trying to do something that it feels what it feels like to be in your mind instead of just showing who you are. We could just have taken a picture of you while you were typing your typewriter at home when you were writing the story. But now we're trying to get into your mind. And so I used the surroundings, using the flash to make these dark shadows. And then I shot it with a shutter speed and the flash. So I started taking, when the shutter goes off, then I move the camera a little bit, and then the flash goes off. I use it's called when the second chain, I don't know what it's called in English, but the camera goes off and then the flash goes off. So I can move the camera quickly around before the flash comes. And that's why I could start with his face in his stomach. And then I also asked him, oh, no, don't do like that because you are afraid, you are afraid of reality, or you're fucked up in your mind. And so I did these crazy pictures of him and had him look out the window from within where he used to be, So look at me and make these disturbing pictures and let him turn his back to me, shooting from behind. You can't see him, but this is how he felt when he was sick. He was standing there in this hall outside the hospital in this little garden where they could smoke. He was just staring into the bush. So that's how when I think I succeed the most of taking portraits that give something to the reader. This is how I do it. And this is another example of a guy who is he's a famous guy in Denmark. He's turning blind. He's having an eye disease. And so the journalist asked me if I wanted to come with him to the hospital and we could do this follow doc, this we're following him to the hospital. He talks to the doctors and see what's going on. And I said, I'm not interested in that because it's just a documentary picture of a man sitting at a hospital talking to a doctor. I want to do something that we understand how it is to be blind, or at least we're trying to. So I called him and I asked him, can we do something where you show me around the places in Copenhagen where you used to go that you would be sad that you're not able to see anymore? So he said, yes, I have a park where I used to go. I would be really unhappy not to be able to see the trees there anymore when I turn blind. I have my local pub where I have my seat, where I always sitting. I will also be very unhappy not to be able to see that, and so on. So they said, okay, great, let's go around and show pictures from where you are sad about it, not being able to see it anymore. And then when I came up to his apartment, he had all these Christmas trees that were pink. He has 10 of them. And I said, what? Why do you have 10 Christmas trees that are pink? And he said, oh, I couldn't see when I was buying them online. I wanted to buy one, but I by accident pushed 10. And now I have 10. And I was like, okay, let's try use them as a part of the picture. And I shot him with the pink Christmas trees. And then I had a plastic blurred in front of him. Sometimes I use a piece of glass, put a piece of plastic in front of half his face, so it gets blurry because of his eyesight fading. And I took this. And then we went to the park. And while we were standing in the park, I was like, pink Christmas trees, green trees. Why don't I turn the trees into infrared as well? And then you would say, but this is not reality, and you can't do that because you're not showing reality. But in a way, you're right. But I'm trying to tell a story with my picture. I'm trying to give I'm trying to tell something about his eyesight. And he's bought pink Christmas trees, so I turned the green trees into infrared and made them pink as well in the post-production. And then we're getting under the trees, and two leaves disappears in front of his eyes, so he has this perfect light in both his eyes here. And this is a coincidence, but I saw it and I took it and I understood, oh, his eyes, this is all about his eyes. And this is where he is drinking his beer at his local pub. And then I had the plastic and I hold it in front of camera and I made this blurry white picture. And when he saw it, he said, oh, you know what? People think that when you lose your eyesight, everything becomes dark, but it actually becomes white. It vanishes in front of you. So this is a perfect example of what happens when you're getting blind. So I was, of course, happy. I didn't know anything about it, but I was, of course, happy. And this is another example I will give you is that I went to do another author who wrote a book about a novel about we have a chemical factory at the west coast of Denmark who has polluted the area so bad, the water and the sand dunes are totally full of toxic things. They buried it in the 50s and it's still there and it creates a lot of problems. He wrote a book about a novel, but with the history as a reference, so I went there with the journalists, again, my good friend who I did the other stories with, and we were talking about that we should go and see that chemical factory and the area and take pictures of him there. And I went there and I took pictures, and it rains that day. And we drove around. This is the factory in the background. I used it was rainy, but I was thinking, hey, it doesn't matter. The lens get covered by the water. I don't care. I go with the flow, and I took pictures of him, and I took pictures of the toxic environment, the sun coming. This is the dirt road to the water where all the toxic waste has been buried, and I took pictures of him there. The factory in the background here as well. The factory. Then I shot some sand dunes, and the polluted area is right on top of there through the glass of my car. Had the rain on my car window, took pictures towards the factory again, him walking in the sand dunes, and then him sitting at the ocean. And I saw the sun breaking through the clouds. So we had rain and sun at the same time, and I screamed at the journalist that he should run down to hold my flash and pointed at him so we could have a picture immediately. The sun disappeared immediately after this picture was taken, and I used the drops on the lens to do this crazy things. And then I shot him out of the the window, car window again, and he's walking, and then just a normal picture. But then when I came back home, I was developing these pictures, and I was thinking about how should I tone the work, and then I came to realize that, oh, maybe the rain could be like toxic rain, like um, that it's polluted. The rain is acid, and I just had this yellow feeling in my brain about it. So I color graded the work, this toxic yellow color. And sometimes I do that, and I can do it because it's a portrait. If it was documentary, I couldn't do it. If it was, covering news stories, I couldn't develop my pictures like that, because there we have to show reality and show this is how it looks. But when it's a story like this, where I can go in and think a little bit about, maybe this could be an asset to the story, then I'll do it. There is a Danish photographer who is a member of Magnum, and he's called Jakob Ausobol, and he has depression, so he doesn't work as a photographer anymore. And now he's living on a small island in Denmark, and he goes fishing to survive, to make food, to get food. And so he published a book about his early work from Greenland, and I told my great friend again, the journalist that I did the other stories with, that we should go and talk to him and tell his story. So we went, and here Jakob is shooting his work in hot flash, black and white flash with very dark shadows and highlights and so on. And I was thinking, why not try to shoot the story about him in his own style? So I went and did this, and took pictures of him while he was fishing, the food, and also he's known for taking pictures of people with not so much clothes on, and very intimate portraits and so on. So I asked his wife and him to lie down for me, and did the same. Um, he's out in the garden playing with his kids, and on a bonfire, and he had depression, so taking sad pictures. But also he's living on the island. It's getting dark, so I flashed the tree up with making it totally white, and then you can see a little bit of the background, and so that's how I try to make something interesting out of that. I think we have time just for one more. Uh, Also, again, just to show you a little bit uh, how I work. I don't know why it doesn't want to open this one. Yeah, here we go. Um, he's a Danish rapper, and we're going to meet him in his studio. And I have one light with me, and then I'm always trying to see. I use one strobe with the I have a Profoto flash that can just be steady light, not flashlight, but just steady B light, I call it. It's amazing. And I use that as one source of light, and then I try to find light in the situation where I'm shooting. So I found a chain of small lights that you use for Christmas trees. It was lying on a piano, and I'm holding that chain of lights, small lights, in front of the camera, just straight into the camera like this, so it becomes blurry. And then they had just in the ceiling they had a blue light, um, and I turned it down, hitting his face, and then I used my strobes as the light on the side of his face, as the warm light here. So I'm having one light with me, and then I'm using available light, and I'm always looking for things like that. I'm shooting. As you can see, the light that I found on the piano is the orange light here, and the blue light is hitting him, and my or my B light is hitting his face here. And then we walk outside in the alley, and I turn my car is parked right there, and I turn on the blink. The when you want to turn with the car, it's orange light coming, and I turn it on, and I use my strobe, my B light to cover him. But the orange light from my car is creating the orange light in the alley. So that's how I'm trying to be creative, finding light. So because I'm a one-man band, and because I don't have a lot of assistants with me, I don't have a time and a possibility to have a lot of light with me, because we are shooting on a daily basis and people are not having so much time. I'm trying to use what I can do where I am to be creative. Uh, I think that was it for now, guys, right?
I was muted again, but I wanted to say thank you so much.
Yeah,
It's
you're welcome.
been super inspiring. I've seen the comments. Everyone is so excited with your work, with seeing like all the early examples, all the portrait examples, and how you approach photography, and how you position yourself as photographers. There's been quite a few questions.
Yeah,
So I'll go to questions. If there will be more, just please put them in the comments part. But we have already 8 of them. Uh, I didn't interrupt you. Let me just remove
yeah,
this. Yeah, I didn't interrupt you initially when you spoke about your no, let me go to the first one. Yeah, when you spoke about your project in Berlin, but
yeah,
Vivian was asking that, well, she has been taking photos of people taking drugs, and they signed the consent form, but then when they kind of moved back, and then they said they don't want her to use this photo. So
yeah.
what would your advice be? You've obviously probably been in this kind of situations.
That's really, really difficult, because of course you don't want to. If you sign an agreement together, uh, and that they allow you to take pictures, um, and you can use them, and you spend a long time shooting it, then I would also be very upset if they come after 2 months of work and say, "Hey, we don't want you to use it," even though they have signed it. But it again, it's really difficult, and I think we should try be as human as we can, and not letting our own egos get in the way of you, and use other people if they don't want to participate, right? So I think it's a question of I think it's a question of how much time you spend on it, how good the agreement is, and if you come back. Let me say this. I just got divorced. I'm sorry. After 30 years, I got divorced, and I had made a personal book about my life with my children and my wife through 30 years. And my wife knows that I've done this work, and my ex-wife now, and I and this work I'm very happy about, and I'm really, I feel that it's strong and it's great. But I have asked her 3 times if it's okay that I'm still using that, because we're not married anymore, and she says yes. So it's very important that my son is coming in and saying something. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 15 minutes. They want me to eat.
Yes, I can
uh,
imagine.
yeah. So when you're making these release forms, you do it because you want to make sure that people understand that it's a sensitive stuff, but at the same time you don't want to be a bad person that uses people. I have another example that I could tell you, is that I wanted to do a story about people who become what you call it in English, when they disappear from the world. They get a disease and they lose, contact to the world. So they all of a sudden they're like disappeared. They're there, but they in their mind they have a brain Alzheimer's or whatever it's called. So they get sick. I went. My journalist found the assignment. She told me, oh, I had this old couple and the woman is losing her, the
Mhm.
sense of reality, and we would like to follow them from now and into when she disappears. And so I went there and I took pictures of them and I made an amazing picture. I mean, I think it's one of the best pictures I've made in years. I did perfect picture of this, of her losing her mind at the same time, and it was atmosphere, and it was such a great picture. I was so happy when I get back home to my editor and I said I did one of the best pictures in years. And then, but when I was there taking the pictures, I spoke to the woman. I said, "Oh, so how do you feel about being ill and not be able to understand what's going on in the future and so on?" She said, "No, no, I'm not ill. I'm just losing my eyesight." And I was like, "What?" And so I called the journalist and told her, "Listen, she done. Didn't you talk to her about that we are going to follow her through this hard period of time?" "Yes, yes." But she didn't even understand that what I was doing. So what I did is that I called her daughter and I asked her daughter, "Hey, listen, I'm following your mother, and your mother was. I just want to make sure that you are aware of that your 80-year-old mother is being photographed for the paper." And the daughter freaked out. She said, "Oh, no, 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 don't, you can't, you no." And even though the husband and the wife, the old lady has said yes, um, she the daughter didn't want to us to do it, and so I have to give up on that amazing picture because she didn't want to do it, and the old lady was too ill to be able to understand what we was going to do. So I think it's a moral question, it's an ethic question, it's how fond are you of the work, how much time and effort did you put into the work, and if they don't want to do it because of a just because they are, they change their mind, maybe not, but you should have a really really good reason why going ahead even though that they signed the agreement. So it's a question of being ethical, correct, and a great person. Hope that answered
Okay.
the question a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, thank you for that. I also saw that they had a discussion among community members as well. So I saw Anastas also commenting on that. So thank you for that.
Mm,
There's been two questions linked to the gear that you use. So let me just, there was one from Alessandro Stefanelli asking which lenses do you use? And then here I'm going to post a bit longer one. So yeah, it's if you could speak about your gear. We rarely talk about this actually in this
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
event. So I think it's quite an interesting
Um,
question.
yes, I'm shooting with the Canon R5, and when I changed from a regular camera to these mirrorless cameras, I told my editor that I've never been such a bad photographer in such a short time. But after 2 months of using the mirrorless camera, I was so happy and so much in love. Because when I shoot and look through the viewfinder, I can see the exposure immediately. And so it helps me being creative that I can see, oh, the light change when I go up and down in aperture or in shutter speed and so on. And my 80, no, maybe 90% of all my work related to portrait photography, I'm using a 50 millimeter 1.2. I always carry two camera bodies at the same time, and on the other one I have a 35 1.4 or maybe a 22 24 to 35. No, it's 24 to 70 zoom lens on the other camera, but I rarely use it. I prefer to use these prime lenses, and yeah, that's my, that's how I walk around. And then I use this Pro Photo. It's called XT10B, I think it's called, for my regular steady light and flash sometimes. But I use, when you're shooting with an aperture of 1.2, you can use the smallest or dimmest light, or in every situation you can find great light, because it's such a great and strong lens when it comes to light. Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. I hope
Mhm.
this was a good answer for you, Rafa. I think it was Rafael and Alessandro, if not just right. Then I have another question from Alessandro Stefanelli linked to your obviously editorial work. So he's asking that if you ever worry that adapting to the editorial demands might, in the long run, make you lose your own kind of voice.
Yes, there is always the possibility that you get tired just by doing regular work and that you don't have energy to do your own stuff. But I have published 3 monographs, and I always succeeded on doing my own work. But to be honest, I would have loved to make more work, personal work, than just doing assignment work, if I could have chosen to. But I must also admit that my illness when I was 16 also have made me aware of my own, how do you say, vulnerability, or that I always been afraid of not being able to survive on just doing my own personal work. And I'm really, really good at doing assignment work. I'm really good at just being put in a situation and shoot all kinds of work. So it's a double take on it. On one hand, I love doing personal work. On the other hand, I also love, just have every day a new assignment. And I also love riding my bicycle and being a good father, and being able to go on holiday and relax sometimes. So um, yeah, so it's a little, I'm a little double on it, but I'm happy that I am able to do personal work, but I would have loved to do more.
Yeah, then let's link this. Let me just put up another question because obviously Marina was asking, how do you identify stories? And in the magazine, obviously you do them together with the team, I assume. So it's a way how you cooperate with editors and journalists. And
Yes.
then when it comes to personal work, you said you want to do more. Like, how would you approach? What kind of story do you want to tell?
I always tell my students to sometimes don't overthink things. Don't think that you have an answer to what exactly you want to do from the beginning, but be inspired by something and start working on it. So um, that's how with the bodybuilders, I just went to shoot backstage at a competition, and then I saw, wow, this could develop into something else. So sometimes it's just a question of start out. Just go and start and be inspired and be curious, and not overthink it. The Berlin wagon camp, I was on holiday with my father, and we passed this wagon camp. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And when I went there with my school as a student, I was like, hey, I want to do this story. And so sometimes I get inspired by looking at pictures or see things. I'm not so good at being inspired by a piece of text. So if I see something, just a little bit of light or a situation, I'm thinking, oh wow, this could develop into something amazing, or I just start shooting, and then as we go, we can also with the Albanians, it's pyramid scheme collapse. Then they looted the military barracks. Then the weapons went to Kosovo. Then I went with it. So it's just be open-minded and curious and go with the flow. So and of course you can, if you're really good. I'm not good at that. You can say, okay, I want to try do something that uh, gives a perspective on the world we're living in right now. So I want to shoot, let's say, the crisis in France. So I go to shoot the demonstrations against the government there, and then you start shooting that, and then you meet people, and then you find a group of young people who lived in a collective. They don't have any money, so they have to live together there. They're unemployed, and then you start shooting them, and then one of them is an artist who paints, and then that's how it works. So be
Thank you.
open-minded, creative, and try to go with the flow.
Thank you, Joachim.
You're
I
welcome.
think let's close here. I know you need to go to dinner, and I also need to run. I'm sorry for everyone that still had questions. In terms of gear, I will send Joachim an email. I promise that, and he will tell you all about for our gear channel in Discord. Yes, I'll do that. I'll really do that because I know it's very interesting for some.
Yeah.
Rafael, I also see you had
But
questions. Yes.
can I just say that this personal work that I'm doing with my family is all shot on my iPhone.
Hmm.
So
So.
it's not a question about the gear. It's a question of what kind of tool you have in the moment.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's true because it's always about the view, and I think you can achieve a lot with even the phones now. So
Yes.
that's true. But I just wanted to say, well, first, thank you to you, Joachim. To those that still had questions, I did see them. Raphael, I see you had two comments as well. If you want to reach out to me as well about this kind of topics, we can also have a discussion another day. And because I know you commented on this kind of decolonization of the gays and all the big agencies and all this. Kind of how is that possible in southern hemisphere? I think it's very possible in this day, so we can discuss it either in a meeting or let's say in a community hangout. And then to everyone else that still had questions but didn't have them answered, I really apologize, but we're quite short on time. But I think Joachim was very generous with us, so I thank you for that, Joachim, very much.
Yeah, thank you
um,
very much.
to everyone here, I just want to say that Joachim will also have a workshop. It was planned for the 29th of October, but we just agreed that we will shift it to the first week of November. I will place the link. Let me just find it. So the link on how you apply for the workshop and what are the requirements. I'll paste it here in the comments. So make sure to apply because we will only be able to give spots to 4 or 5 persons. And then I also want to tell you that in November, we will be talking to one of our, like, it's my colleague, Agate Kalfas. She's a curator and educator in Aral, and she will actually speak about portfolio building and how you present portfolios to editors. So I think it's quite a nice like follow up to this lecture by Joachim. So really pay attention also for announcement of that lecture, and she will then also have a workshop later in November. But this is really all from Seven Community in partnership with Photo Wings. I really thank again our partners to make this kind of programs and lectures possible. And Joachim, thank you for all the time and all
Thank you.
the wonderful work we saw. So we
Thank
really
you very
appreciate
much.
it. All right.
Have
Thank you,
fun.
everyone.
Thank you.